Please be seated. Yeah, over there. Go ahead, Mr. Allen. Detective Ratzburg, at some point you had occasion to go to Appleton, Wisconsin to interview a witness whose name was Joan Colby. She also goes by Joan Wise. Is that correct?
Did you say Appleton?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
You recall speaking with Joan Colby?
Yes, I recall speaking with her.
She was someone you went to speak with because she was a former secretary of Ed Kluge's, right?
Objection, this calls for hearsay.
Well,
Just identifying.
this question doesn't. The objection's overruled.
You went to speak with Joan Colby because she was a former secretary of Ed Kluge, correct?
Yes.
After interviewing her, she told you that...
Objection. It's hearsay what she told him.
Oh, it's not.
It sounds that way.
It won't be.
Well,
It's not.
I don't want to be surprised. It sure sounds hearsay-ish.
Well, then I guess we need to approach so I can tell you what it is.
The objection is sustained.
Detective Ratzburg, you gave Miss Colby some advice after she spoke with you, right?
I gave her some advice?
Yes.
Yes.
You told her that she probably should not talk to the defense investigator who had been trying to reach her, correct?
True.
You were aware that in a criminal case or a civil case, any case in our legal system, both parties have the right to interview witnesses, right?
Yes, and the reason I told her that is because several of the people that your investigator were going to felt harassed enough to call the police departments. And so I wanted to forewarn her of that and to caution her on that.
Okay.
I made it very clear to her.
All right, let's talk about that. My investigator went to the Kluge's house. That's what you understand, right?
Yes, he did.
He rang the doorbell, right?
I don't know.
You know that investigator has a right to talk to witnesses, right?
Yes, he does.
And all he did was ring that doorbell, right?
I don't know what he did.
He tried to call on the telephone?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness was interrupted as he was answering the question.
Well, the witness did answer the question. He said, I don't know what he did, and it does sound like anything that any awareness he has is going to be a hearsay response.
He volunteered the hearsay, and so I think I get to clarify what actually happened and what he knows.
Well, you're asking no, you're not asking what he knows. You're asking what the person did. You may ask him what he knows.
But, Your Honor...
What he was informed that led him to make the statement that he did.
But, Your Honor, whatever he asks him, he's got to give the witness an opportunity to give an answer, and the witness was interrupted.
I will tell you, maybe I missed it, but I thought the witness answered and he asked another question. But what's the difference? He's going to ask another question now.
My investigator has the same right you do to go talk to people, doesn't he?
Yes,
In fact, that's the best way to find out the truth in this case, isn't it?
can be.
Miss Colby did not claim that she had been harassed, did she?
No, she didn't.
She said he had left a voicemail for her, right?
Yes.
She didn't say it was an impolite voicemail, right?
Objection. This is the calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
Well, it doesn't. The question that's before the court right now is
What she didn't say, which is the adverse...
just a minute. It's not hearsay because the declarant is stating a mental impression, a mental feeling. The question was she did not feel harassed, so it's the objection's overruled.
Well, that wasn't the question, Judge.
No, the question before, to which there was no objection, is already in the record. Now the question is, whether the declarant felt harassed, and it's not hearsay, and the objection's overruled.
She didn't feel harassed.
Objection, no foundation, calls for speculation.
Well, now you're changing your question and asking him as to whether the person felt harassed or not. That's a different question. Go
She didn't
ahead.
express that she felt harassed, right?
Correct.
By telling her that, you were interfering with the defendant's right to investigate the case.
No, by telling her that, I wanted to caution her because I know other witnesses were calling the police department, in particular the Appleton Police Department, about this person. And I advised her that some other people have called the police and felt as though they've been harassed.
All right. And why? And what did they say? What is it that made them feel harassed, Detective Ratzburg?
Objection, now that's triple hearsay or double hearsay.
Well, if he's going to volunteer statements, I get to find out what his basis is.
Your question is request hearsay, objection sustained.
Well, you felt it was somehow your job to tell Joan Colby not to talk to a legitimate defense inquiry, the investigator, right?
I didn't tell her that. I suggested that to her
Right.
and made her aware of some of the harassing activity.
Oh, by the way, Joan Colby told you that she never had any conversation with Ed Klug like he claimed, right?
Objection, that calls for hearsay.
Goes to his motivation.
Objection, it calls for hearsay as to what Joan Colby
The
said.
objection is sustained.
But Judge, I'd ask that it be admitted as to his motive in making this statement.
The objection is sustained.
You're not aware of the slightest bit of misconduct by my investigator, are you?
There were some people that complained, but anything in particular? No, I don't. I'm not.
No, you're unaware of one thing he did that was improper, correct?
Specifically, are you speaking?
Specifically, generally, anything.
I know that the Klugs complained to me that they felt as though he was harassing them. That's all I know on that.
That is, they didn't respond to his voicemail, right?
Objection, again, it calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
You can understand how you might deprive a defendant of important evidence if you tell witnesses not to talk to his investigator, right?
Objection calls for speculation on the part of this witness, and it's argumentative.
Say that one more time.
You can understand how you may deprive a defendant of important evidence by telling witnesses not to talk to his investigator, right?
Well, again, I stated this a couple times. I didn't tell her not to talk to him. I suggested and forewarned her that he will probably be in contact, and other people have complained about the harassing nature of his
I
contact.
object to the hearsay, move to strike.
No, it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter as stated. This is the declarant, and what was asserted in the statement is not offered to prove its truth. The objection is overruled.
You know that can be an obstruction of justice to tell witnesses not to talk to a defense investigator, right?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for legal conclusion.
Overruled.
Obstruction of justice, not that I'm aware of.
So you don't think there's anything wrong with telling witnesses not to talk to a defense investigator? Is that your position?
I guess the problem I have with your question is you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't tell her not to talk to her. I cautioned her. And you keep coming back with, you told her not to talk to you, and I cautioned her.
You said she shouldn't talk to the defense investigator,
I
right?
cautioned her, and she shouldn't. I don't believe I said that either. I said I cautioned her that she may be contacted by a private investigator, and that there's been some issues with him contacting other witnesses, and they've called the police. That's all that's happened.
Do you deny saying you shouldn't talk to him?
Yes, I think there's probably close.
What?
That's close. I'm unsure, but shouldn't might be a little too strong. I don't believe I know I didn't say that. I suggested that she be cautious.
Well, cautious of what, Mr. Ratzburg?
Well, that this particular private investigator, according to other people in Appleton, was harassing them.
What harassment did they say he caused?
Objection calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained.
Judge, this goes to the legitimacy of his reaction. It's whether he obstructed or not.
Your Honor,
Just a minute, I want to think about it a minute. See, you're asking the question as to, if I understood your question right, you're asking not what he was told, but what in fact was done. And that's what's objectionable about it.
Okay. Well, what did the Kluge say that exactly that Mr. Galati had done?
objection is hearsay.
Well, the problem is that he took some action based upon it, and I know generally that's irrelevant, but given all of the circumstances of what occurred here, I'm going to overrule your objection.
Well, Your Honor, I would note, Joan Klug and Ed Klug were in this courtroom.
Just a minute. Your objection is overruled.
I'm sorry, one more time, sir?
What exactly did they tell you that he had done?
That he was in their driveway, ringing their doorbell, and parking down the street, and they weren't sure who he was. I think they were a little more scared of the unknown. They weren't sure who he was or what he was up to.
Now, when you are trying to find a witness, you will ring their doorbell, right?
Yes.
And if you're unable to find a witness and you need to in a hurry, you'll park down the street and wait and see if they come home, right?
Occasionally, yes.
That's what an investigator needs to do to talk to witnesses, correct?
Sometimes.
And you often find that witnesses might be a little reluctant to talk to you, right?
Sure.
But to find out what's going on in the case, you have to be persistent, right?
Sometimes.
And you don't see that as harassing them if you have to make several attempts to try to talk to them when they don't answer the door, right?
Well, the Klugs felt as though it was harassing.
Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that as an investigator, is there?
True.
And given that you didn't have any information indicating that anything had actually been done that was wrong, you would agree you should not have told Joan Colby not to talk to our investigator.
No, that's not true. I wanted to forewarn her, and I cautioned her, and I says, I stated, it's up to you, but I forewarned her that some of the other witnesses have complained to me and the Appleton Police Department.
At that time, you knew that there was an upcoming hearing in this case, right?
Likely, yes.
You never gave us the reports about your interviews with Joan Colby until after that hearing began, right?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not this witness's responsibility to turn over reports to the defense counsel. He doesn't give anything to the defense.
Well, he can answer the question, and what its import is quite another
Well,
matter.
it's irrelevant, Your Honor. It's irrelevant whether this witness gave anything to the defense because cops don't give anything.
Just a minute. Go ahead, answer the question.
Sorry, there's something about the report.
You didn't turn that over to the defense or to the prosecutor to be turned over to the defense before that hearing started.
Well, now you're sweeping in too much.
You didn't turn it over to the defense, right?
No, I didn't turn anything over to the defense, no.
You didn't turn that report over to the prosecutor before that hearing, right?
I have no idea when I turned it over to the prosecution.
Are you aware whether Joan Colby did talk to the defense?
My understanding is that she did.
And as a result, she was subpoenaed to the hearing, right? As a result of her talking to the defense?
I believe so, yes.
Now, you also spoke with another secretary of Ed Klug, Stacy Bauer, right?
Correct.
She told, and that was on August 10th, 2007,
That sounds about right.
she told you that she did not recall Mr. Klug speaking with her about any conversation Ed Klug and Mark Jensen had in St. Louis, right?
kind of a long sentence there. Can you repeat that one more time? Sure. Of its accuracy, or if you'd like, you'd show it, get a statement, I can look at it too.
Let me try reading it, and then if you want to look at it, you can do that too.
Very good.
She told you on August 10th, 2007.
Objection, this is hearsay.
Overruled.
She told you on August 10th, 2007, that she did not recall Ed Klug speaking with her about a conversation Ed and Mark Jensen had in St. Louis.
Objection, Your Honor, it's hearsay. It's consistent with her testimony, as she indicated that she didn't recall it at that time.
Check the speaking
The objection is overruled.
Please.
I'm sorry, she told you on August 10th, 2007, that she did not recall Ed Klug speaking with her about a conversation Ed and Mark Jensen had in St. Louis, right?
Objection, under the doctrine of completeness, Your Honor. That's not a complete recitation of what she said.
You can cover on your redirect. Go ahead. You can answer the question.
Correct. Yes.
She remembered she had no memory of Mr. Klug telling her anything about a conversation in St. Louis. True?
Objection, again, Your Honor. Under the doctrine of completeness, that's not a correct recitation of what she said.
Judge, there is no
This is something that can be corrected on redirect.
Your Honor,
The objection is overruled.
under the doctrine of completion...
The objection is overruled. Go ahead.
I'd ask that be read back.
Question, she remembered no. She had no memory of Mr. Klug telling her anything about a conversation in St. Louis. True?
Correct.
The only thing that she recalled hearing was that Mr. Jensen had been having an affair, right?
Yes.
You see those canceled checks. That's all I have.
Mr. Jambos?
Has this been marked as an exhibit yet? Do you know?
Yes.
What's the exhibit number for Stacy Bowes? I need Stacy Bauer's statement. I don't know what the exhibit number is. Can we find it? 228. Compare up with the 116. It's hard to know. Has 220 been received into evidence? Detective Ratzburg, when you spoke to Stacy Bauer, her actual incomplete statement was as follows.
I object the characterization by Mr. Jambois. And it's also contrary to his report.
Well, complete means complete. If you want to revise your question, otherwise complete, you're talking about the complete statement?
On this particular issue, yes. Her complete statement.
On this issue?
Because the question...
On this issue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have no knowledge of a conversation Mark had with Ed Klug in St. Louis regarding killing his wife. Correct?
Yes.
That's what Stacy Bauer originally told you on...
Objection leading.
Well, if it's suggesting an answer, well, I suppose it is leading. Go ahead.
Here. Do you remember as you...
Rephrase your question.
Do you remember you're sitting here right now today, the precise date and time and moment that you took this statement from Stacy Bauer?
I do not.
If I showed you the statement, might that refresh your recollection?
I'm sure it would. Yes.
Now, is that her signature down here?
Yes.
And what date and time was that signature, or was that statement obtained?
Would have been on August 10th of 2007 at 9:40 a.m.
And was that the first time you'd ever spoken to Stacy Bauer?
Yes.
And at that time, that was her recollection?
Yes.
Now, do you recall any other aspect of your conversation with her that you did not record in that statement?
I do not.
Do you recall Stacy Bauer making any reference that she remembers something about a conversation, but not one relating to the killing of anybody's wife?
Say that again, sir.
Do you recall whether or not Stacy Bauer told you that she remembered a conversation that Ed Klug had in St. Louis, but that she did not recall that it pertained to killing anybody's wife? Do you remember that or not?
I do not.
Now, you do concede, by the way, that it's not a good idea for a police detective to inform a witness to not talk to defense investigators?
It's not a good, no, it's not a good thing.
And that's not, certainly not something that I would have suggested, that I suggested you do.
Objection to Mr. Jambois inserting his own credibility into the...
Well, the objection is leading, or the question is leading, and the objection is sustained.
Well, did anybody ever suggest to you that it was appropriate to tell a witness not to talk to a defense investigator?
Objection to relevance.
Overruled.
No.
Now, I want to go through portions of that statement with you. Let's see, just the ones that Mr. Albee had spoken to you about.
Which statement are you speaking of?
The statement that the defendant gave to you, the videotape statement of April 21st, 1999. Now, you've had an opportunity to review the videotape of that statement, correct?
Correct.
You saw it at the same time we all saw it, right?
Yes.
Looking back on it, do you think that you were overly harsh with this witness?
Objection to relevance.
Your Honor, those extensive...
Overruled.
No.
Well, and when I'd asked you on direct, you couldn't remember if you'd spent a fair amount of time on the issue of the sexual relationship between Mark Jensen and Kelly Labonte. Now that you've seen the videotape, there was a fair amount of time spent on that, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
And you went after him at a number of different directions, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Let's go through that. Let's see if I can find that. Do you know what that was on here? I'll get to it here eventually. Starts on line 18, I'm sorry, page 18, line 7. You initially, you raised the issue of Kelly on line 7 by asking the question, who's Kelly? That's you emailing her, I'm assuming, question mark. Answer, yes. Line 9, question, who's Kelly? Line 10, answer, actually, I think this was stuff of, it was actually at Stiefel. Question, who? Answer, this was all work stuff that I was accessing. Question, oh, you're over my head here. Laughter, parent. 15, answer, actually, she is my boss's secretary. And then there's line 18, okay, question, okay, is she a friend of yours? Answer, yes. Question, you've known her? Answer, well, since I've been there and she's my boss's assistant. Line 23, question, okay, now and I guess what, you know, this is all work-related here? Didn't seem work-related, Mark, to be honest with you. Can you think of a couple of different, I'm trying to find some more here, so here's some here, you know, like, here's Kelly, and this is that September 4th. I don't want to work, I just want to beat on my drums all day. Answer, beat on my drums all day. Question, what does that mean? You got a set of drums? Answer, that's an old song. No, it's an old song. So you address this issue of Kelly with Mark Jensen in this fashion, correct?
Yes,
Just kind of led him around to the topic of who this Kelly is.
correct.
And did you try to beat down his resistance to telling you who this Kelly was?
Yes,
Well, you weren't really spectacularly successful, were you?
I was not.
I mean, you asked leading questions,
Yes,
much like Mr. Albee has asked leading questions of you?
Don't question about what Mr. Albee did.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw that question then. But you were all over Mr. Jensen on this issue of who this Kelly Labonte was.
yes, I
Now,
was.
why were you interested in that?
Well, I wanted him to be truthful with me, and I wanted to find out who Kelly was.
And why did you want to find out who Kelly was?
See if it related to this death investigation I was investigating.
See if maybe there was a motive, perhaps?
Yes, sir.
So it was an important part of this interrogation to find out who this Kelly was.
Object to the continued reading.
Well, somehow I don't think he's suggesting an answer to
It's an
the,
argumentative fashion.
the objection's overruled.
Yes,
So would you say you went after him pretty hard on this?
yes,
And he lied to you over and over and over again about this.
yes,
He'd tell you a little bit of truth, right?
yes.
And then again, line 21, or page 21, line 3, this one here on Friday, September 4th. Don't want to work, I just want to beat on my drums all day. Hope it doesn't come to that. I'm going to have to go home and try to fix my high-maintenance woman. This is a message from you to Kelly. And the answer is, And then the question, if I stopped and got Titanic on the way home, wonder if I could get her to sit next to me on the couch. Low expectations. Answer, Line 13, question, was Kelly a girlfriend of yours? Or answer, no, just a friend. She was well, Scott McKay is a friend of mine. He left Baird. Line 16, left who? Answer, Baird, Robert W. Baird. No, that was truthful, wasn't it? Scott McKay was her boss.
Yes,
Have you found,
Judge, even though there may be no dispute as to some of these things about whether they're truthful or not, it's improper to have a witness comment on whether they're truthful or not.
The objection is sustained.
well, do you find it an unusual, or a usual or an unusual tactic for a suspect in a criminal case to interweave truthful things with untruthful things as he's trying to evade responsibility for his criminal act?
Objection, seems facts not in evidence.
Yes,
It's a common thing.
yes, it is.
And there were some things that you independently knew to be true, correct?
That is correct.
You knew that Mr. Jensen used to work with Robert W. Baird?
Yes, I knew that.
Did you know that Kelly Labonte, that her boss was Scott McKay?
I did not know that at the time of this interview.
You know that now, though, right?
I do, yes.
Line 19, page 21, answer. And he's why I went to Stiefel. Kelly was his assistant. Scott knew what was going on because sometimes what was going on at home would get in the way of work and stuff like that. Question, sure, yeah. Answer, so, you know, Kelly also knew all about it. She was a friend. She had a sister who was depressed, so, you know, who had depression, and so we just get into these conversations about how things were going. Question, okay. And so she was just somebody you could talk to at work. Answer, exactly. Question, all that you've been talking to her. How long have you been talking to her? Obviously, when you were at Baird, was it? Answer, no, it was just. Question, well, she worked there, right? Answer, Kelly did. Question, yeah, she worked there with you? Answer, Scott did. Question, okay. Answer, Kelly has always been at Stiefel. Question, okay, all right. So you went to Stiefel is when you, I'll start that over again. Question, okay, all right. So since you went to Stiefel is when you've known Kelly. Answer, right. Question, if not before. Answer, not before. Question, okay, just since Stiefel. And then page 23, line 6. Okay, it doesn't have St. Louis on there. I assume maybe she was in your office up there or a friend of somewhere or anyway, just in our conversations. Answer, she's a friend here because I got to know her because of positions. He doesn't say what positions, does he?
No, he doesn't.
And then he goes on at line 12, answer. And even other people in the office, you know, I mean Mary in the office, my assistant Mary Schultz. Question, answer. The last 3 months have been pretty crazy. Question, what do some of these emails mean? I mean, the one that I read to you, fix my high maintenance woman. Do you remember sending that? Answer, not specifically. Answer, I think that's just a reference to, I remember getting Titanic, and she, you know, you couldn't get her to do anything, Julie. I mean, she would just, no interest, you know. I mean, try to fix, quote, the fix, unquote. I mean, that refers to one of the conversations I was having with everybody. And then page 24, line 21. See, I was kind of thinking that maybe this Kelly Labonte was, I mean, Julie had an affair before, and I thought maybe you two would be having an affair. And if you're, you know, with Kelly, or maybe you're seeing, are you seeing her now, Kelly at all? Question mark. Page 25, line 1, answer, no, now I have, I mean now I have. Question, so she's your girlfriend now, or at least somebody you're dating? Answer, a friend, or question, would that be a fair statement of dating, or what do you mean? Answer, I guess you could call it maybe a dating, but you know, that's, you know, she's a friend. We hang around together. That's about it, yeah. Question, well, okay, I mean, when you say friend, was she a friend like that? She's a friend now. Answer, no. Or somebody that you date right now, right? Answer, now I would, but back then, no. Question, okay. Answer, no, I mean, that was not, you know, and no, I understand where you're going, and no, at that point in time, it was. Question, okay, so before Julie's death, you didn't have any type of, you had limited contact with her. Answer, right. Question, now since her death, what's transpired? Answer, let's see, what's the time frame here? Went down to St. Louis a couple of times, saw her, she came up a couple of times. Question, so you guys are dating or seeing each other at this point? Answer, yeah, exactly. Question, okay, but not beforehand? Answer, no, I mean, the times we got to, I'd see her would just be business functions when I go down to St. Louis for a meeting. Question, Answer, like in November. Question, Didn't you call Julie from St. Louis the one time you were telling me? Exactly. Now, down to line 24, page 26. So you knew Kelly beforehand, and since Julie's death, you guys have dated and have been going up. That's a fair statement? Question mark. Fair statement? Question mark. Answer, yeah, I guess a fair statement. Maybe, well, it's like the kids, David made a comment the other day and said, maybe sometime you guys will start dating. Question, yeah. Answer, I mean, we really haven't gone out, It's more just hanging around. The kids are there and it's question. So you're kind of, and I'm not trying. Answer, well, question. Mark, hit the nail on the head here. What type of, you guys are dating as a man and woman would, maybe kissing or having sex, I don't want to pry being heavy here, but are you heavy to that extent? Or is it just, hey, we're stopping at a bar and having a drink? Answer, it's more stopping at the bar, but the big question is where? Question, so you guys aren't necessarily lovers? Answer, no. Now this was his initial statements to you about Kelly Labonte as of April 21st, 1999. Is that true?
That is true.
Line 19, page 27. And I'll be honest with you, I find that just a little hard to believe. If you go stay overnight in St. Louis with her and you're dating her, I'm assuming she's single, question mark, I don't know, either that or divorced or something like that. Answer, divorced. Question, it would be hard to believe if you've seen her as often as you said you were that there isn't something a little bit more. So what were you doing at that time, at that point, detective? Were you actually being honest with this person when you said, I'll be honest with you, I find that just a little hard to believe?
Yes, it was.
You were being, it was hard for you to believe that?
It was very hard for me to believe, yes.
And you were being straight with him at that point?
Yes, I was.
And then line 28. Page 28, line 4. Question, you're sleeping together. I think that would be a reasonable assumption. Answer, right. Question, I know I would be. Answer, I understand. Question, I'll be honest, and I don't know. Maybe you are or maybe you're not. Answer, well, not okay. To be perfectly honest with all that. Question, okay. Answer, prior to everything? Mm-hmm. Answer, prior to January, we had not. We were just friends. Question, Answer, good friends, but friends. I mean, it was more of an acquaintance. I saw her maybe 3 or 4 times. Question, Answer, during that period of time when we were friends, it would be 88 last year. You mean 98? Answer, 98, I'm sorry. Question, okay. Answer, I went down there in April and the office opened in June. Appleton opened somewhere in October. But every couple months, it was mostly on the phone I was talking to. Question, before December? Answer, right, exactly. Question, you met with her 3 times? Answer, I had seen her 3 times since the office opened, but we were never alone because it was always business situations. Question, okay. Answer, question, after Julie's death? Answer, after Julie's death sometime. Question, it started to be more of a serious relationship then? Would that be a fair statement? Answer, I guess so. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is quantify serious. Question, yeah. Then skipping down to line 22, page 29. But your relationship is a lot more serious than it was before December. Answer, exactly. That's what he finally told you?
Yes.
Line 25, question, and I would assume that you're spending the night down there with her, and she's coming up here and spending the night with you here in Kenosha or Pleasant Prairie, whatever. Answer, right. Question, so you have an emotional, if not a sexual, you have a sexual relationship with her then? Answer, yes. Question, that would be a fair statement? Answer, yeah, we've gone, question, or a true statement, I should say. Answer, true statement. We've gone there since then. Question, okay, but there was nothing like that prior to. Question, prior to? Answer, prior to, no. So, question, how long did you know her before that? Answer, from April. And you still went on, and we're asking you more questions about Kelly. Did he ever admit to any more of a sexual relationship than the one he just described just now?
No.
And you were using all this supply of these detective things that you've learned when you're conducting an interrogation. You just couldn't break them down at that point.
No, I couldn't.
He never did admit that he had sexual relations with Kelly Labonte on a regular basis between meeting her in September and the time that Julie died in December, did he?
True.
Despite your best efforts.
Yes.
Did he ever admit to you that Kelly had moved from St. Louis to Wisconsin in order to be closer to him?
No.
And yet she had moved, you learned, sometime in March, correct?
Correct.
So the month before you conducted this interview with Mark Jensen, Kelly had quit her job in St. Louis and moved to Racine or Kenosha, Wisconsin. Isn't that true?
Yes.
You didn't know that at the time that you conducted this interview, did you?
I did not.
Pardon me?
I did not.
Let's talk for a moment about the circumstances under which Mark Jensen was talking about Kelly's computer usage. Did you talk to Mark Jensen on or around December 3rd or December 4th or December 5th or 6th, 1998 about how much Julie could use, how conversant Julie was with the use of a computer and whether she used it or not?
He indicated to me that she didn't use it that much.
When did he indicate that to you?
In December of '98.
Did you talk to him about that computer and whose it was and who used it?
Yes.
What did he say to you about whose computer that was and who used it?
Well, he said that she used it for the Quicken program, put things in there, and then and he used it for work.
Well, when's the first time that he's told you that she used the Quicken program?
I don't recall exactly.
Well, had he ever told you that before this interview?
I believe so, yes.
Directing your attention to page 9, line 20, question, and that was real curious to me. This is a printout of what was all in the computer, okay? Quite a bit here, and I noticed a lot here on poisoning information. Now, from when I talked to you at the scene, December 3rd was the date that Julie passed on, I remember you telling me that she didn't do...
Judge, this is appropriate time for an instruction, and Detective Ratzburg's statements are not offered for their truth.
Well, again, folks, what pronouncements are made by Detective Ratzburg, assertions he makes are not to be considered as evidence against the defendant, except to the extent that he adopts them or embraces them with his response.
And just for the record, Your Honor, I think the better time to do that is before or after I'm asking a question, not in the middle of a question. But I'll start over again. Page 9, line 20. Question. And what was real curious to me, this is a printout of what was all in the computer, okay? Quite a bit here. And I notice a lot here on poisoning information. Now, from when I talked to you at the scene, December 3rd was the date that Julie passed on. I remember you telling me that she didn't do anything at all with the computer. You pretty much did. Now, the question goes on, but I want to stop right here. Is that an accurate recollection? Is that an accurate statement or not?
That's an accurate statement, yes.
So, on or around December 3rd, Mark Jensen told you that Julie didn't do anything at all with the computer. That he pretty much did. That's what he told you on or around December 3rd, 1998?
Yes, and I do recall them mentioning something about a Quicken program at some point during that time also.
And then you go on with your question, this top of page 10, line 1. And I just noticed a lot of stuff. You can thumb through it here if you'd like, but there's a lot of stuff here on different poisoning things, specific poisoning information. You know, I think this here is what you printed out, which you gave me here, which is on the Paxil. Did you think at some point she was getting poisoned or something? Or what's all this? Answer, I have no idea what this is. Question, you have no idea what any of this is? Well, thumb through it. I mean, there's a lot here. Answer, no. Question, you didn't call up any of this stuff, specific poisoning information? And I see it's again, I'm not sure I can pronounce some of them words. Answer, yeah. Question, and there's a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but there's answer, I don't know. Question, did she operate? I'm just going by what you told me. Answer, right. About when we were at the scene, am I wrong? You said she never really messed with the computer at all, and that was pretty much you used it for work. Answer, I had charting programs on there. Now, at the time that you told this witness, or in the course of your question, you said she never really messed with the computer at all, and that was pretty much you used it for work. Is that an accurate reflection of what the defendant had actually told you on around December 3rd?
Yes.
Answer, I had charting programs on there. Question, right, different things with the type of business you're in. Answer, right. Question, but you didn't call up any of that information at all on the poisoning issues? Answer, no, she didn't see, she used it. So it was only after you'd confronted this defendant with all of this poisoning information that he, at that point, told you she used it.
Objection to leading.
The objection.
Rephrase your question.
Okay. When was the first time that this defendant disclosed to you that Julie was using the computer?
He mentioned it, something about a Quicken program previously, and then here on this page 11, he mentioned that she did use it.
This is after you'd confronted him with all of this information about poisoning on the computer.
Yes.
Let's go through this part where you were confronting the defendant about these photographs being left around the house. First of all, did you see any of these photographs that were being left around the house? Over the years that you and Officer Cosman were conducting an investigation into this matter or reviewing this, did you ever see any of those items?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you're sitting here right now, do you have any recollection of what was portrayed on those photos, and could you describe any of those photos to the jury in terms of their quality, their size, anything about them?
The pictures generally involved a female and a penis, and you usually didn't see the face of the male, but you certainly sometimes saw a face of a female, and they usually involved an erect penis.
Now, were these actual photographs, or do these appear to be something other than actual photographs?
They didn't appear to be actual photographs. They appeared to be some of them, to me anyway, appeared to be somewhat doctored or kind of like you would photocopy something onto something and then go from there. But they didn't appear to be real-life photos.
So it looked like a photocopy, possibly.
Yes, some of
Well,
them,
I want to be clear on this. Are you speaking of a photograph in the sense of something you'd go to the store and have made up or print off a machine in the form of a photograph as opposed to a photographic image? Were these drawings or were they photographic images?
best way to describe them is, I can recall Officer Cosman telling me that some of them he thought were photographs.
I don't want to hear what Officer Cosman said, what you saw.
They would have been full images. Would be an
Hand-drawn?
No, they would have been images from some other place, could have been out of a magazine, could have been out of, off the internet.
But my point is that they were originally a true life representation of something that would be picked up by a camera?
Your Honor, I'm going to explore this with the
Yeah,
witness.
well, go ahead. I'm not clear on it, so.
That's what, and I intend to make it
I'm sure you do a
clear.
better job than I am, so go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but even if I thought it, I wouldn't say that. But let's look at S-197. That is clearly and indisputably a photograph, is it not?
It is,
And it is a photograph of what?
of a female and a man's penis.
Now, let's say that I were to put that on a photocopier and photocopy it. Would there, you've seen what photographs look like when they've been photocopied, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You've also seen, have you ever had a photograph on a computer screen, and then press a print button for an inkjet printer or for a laser printer, a black and white printer?
Yes,
Okay. And the thing that's generated doesn't look exactly like a photograph, does it?
it does not.
It looks kind of like what a photograph would look like if it was printed on a photocopier.
Exactly.
Now, these documents, these items that were being left around the Jensen residence in the years preceding Julie Jensen's death, describe them in those terms if you could. Did it appear to be that they had once been photographs?
Some appeared to be photographs like this one, and some other ones appeared to be some type of photograph or printed material.
A photograph or photocopy, which were you saying?
Both.
Okay. And when you say some type of printed material, I mean, this is printed material, but this doesn't look anything like a photograph, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I'm holding up just a list. These other items that were left around the house that were not photographs, they were not artist renderings, were they?
They were not.
They were actual depictions of something, correct?
Correct.
And what were the actual depictions of?
They were generally with a male penis and a female, and they generally involve some type of sexual act or function.
Now, were these items on photographic quality paper, or were they on just regular type of paper that would be used in a photocopier or a printer?
Asked and answered.
Both.
Now, you've indicated that you've seen what an item would look like if it's a photograph on your computer and then you press a print button and it comes to an inkjet or a laser printer. You've seen that?
Yes.
How would you liken, compare, or contrast these items that are being left around the Jensen residence to something of that sort?
Yes, they very well could have been.
Now, you saw the other day, I mean, actually yesterday on Cross, I think the day before on Friday on Cross and Thursday on direct examination, I showed you some notes that had come out of Julie Jensen's log. Remember
Yes.
those?
Yes.
And I forgot what the numbers are on them, but they're small notepads, note pieces of paper about this big. It'd be a high number two. Here, if you, oh, they're over here? Do you have them, Judge?
Which ones?
The small sheets of paper, are they still in your log?
I do not have them.
Are they still in your log?
No,
They're over.
I believe
I think they're over
separated.
here. I think they're over here. And they were marked as high number exhibit number, probably after this.
Look at some of them.
Yeah, let me give me the exhibit. There they are. Thank you. So I'm looking at exhibits 255 and 256. See, there's writings on both sides of S256. And you'll notice on S256, then this was in Julie's log, right?
Yes.
And so somebody, and apparently Julie wrote, Mark's computers do not have photo generating capacity. That's what it says, correct?
Yes.
But virtually any computer, to your knowledge, detective, would virtually any computer.
Sustained.
Okay. To your knowledge, detective, is there any particular special quality that a computer needs to possess in order to take a photo off the screen or off the internet and press print and have it come out in some sort of a depiction on an inkjet or laser printer?
I object to this witness's knowledge in this area, particularly we're dealing with sometime 95, 96 probably.
If he knows, he can answer and you can cross-examine. Go ahead.
Yes, usually got to have a computer and a printer if you want to make some type of printing.
But it doesn't require any special photo program, does it?
Sometimes it does.
Now, these photos that were, how many of these photos did you see, if you can recall, if you can estimate, that you saw around the residence between 91 and 97 or 98?
Well, I objected, this is asked for clarification. If the question is that he saw around the residence, it suggests that Detective Ratzburg found them around the residence. I don't understand.
That's not what I meant to suggest, so.
Well, that was the way the question was asked, so why don't you rephrase it?
Okay. About how many of these photos did you see that were alleged to have been left around the Jensen residence between 91 and 97 or 98?
Less than 10.
And of those 10, the less than 10 that you saw, how many of them were actual photographs and how many of them were these printed type materials that you're referring to?
I don't recall on what the percentage of each one was. There was a variety.
And was there any commonality in terms of what they each depicted?
Yes, that was pretty consistent with a female and then a male's penis.
What size were these photos? Were they 8 by 10s or were they smaller?
This one here, from the ones that I recall seeing, this size here would be a good representation.
Was that a good representation of all of them, or was that a good representation of the actual photos?
It's a very good representation of what the photos look like, but as far as the size, it might have been some were bigger, some were smaller. I really don't recall, but this would be a good average representation of the photos that I saw.
Okay, now, and I'm distinguishing between photos and the images that appeared to have been printed or photocopied. Did the images that appeared to have been printed or photocopied, were they the same size as that, or were they 8 by 10? Or do you remember?
I don't recall any of that a big 8 by 10.
Now, your purpose in confronting the defendant about these pictures was what? What was your purpose in doing that?
To further along the investigation and what caused Julie Jensen's death.
And you went in pretty hot and heavy on these issues, didn't you?
I questioned him thoroughly. I applied a little pressure to him. I wanted him to tell me the truth.
Now, page 44, line 2, there's a number of lengthy questions that precede that, but the answer, there were times when I'd get stuff in the mail. I wouldn't give it to her initially because it would cause a great deal of upset, and that wasn't helping us. Question, Answer, there were times I just threw them away when I got them, but I mean in terms of having the photos. Question, did you leave them around the house? Answer, no, I did not. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, but there were times when I would just throw them away, when I would stick them someplace like in the garage for a while and then bring them out so she knew what was going on. Question, you would get a photograph in the mail with her in it, showing her with a man's penis? Answer, yeah, and that was the stuff, it was very early on. I got that in the mail, I mean at the office. Question, okay, answer, in the mail. Answer, and I remember one of the girls, this goes way, way back, question, yeah, answer, coming in with an envelope full of pictures. My secretary going, I don't even want to know what that's all about. Question, yeah. And answer, that was Julie's picture on it? Answer, yeah. Question, page 45, line 6. Question, and then what did you do with the photographs from work? Answer, that was all very early on, and that was given to her. I gave it to Julie. Answer, at one point, I remember there was a whole garbage bag of stuff that had been accumulated. She had found stuff around the house, too. Question, Answer, question, but the photograph. Answer, in terms of me, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have the pictures to do anything with. I mean, they'd be there. She found them. Line 20, answer, she did find them. They were left around the house. I found them. She would find them. They'd be in the shed. Question, and you'd put them there in the shed for her to find? Answer, no, I would give them to her. I never put them around the house for her to find them. If I got some in the mail, I mean, I know I didn't just give her everything right away. Some of that I just threw away. I understand what you're saying. I might have if I had gotten pissed off. This was over a period of what, 92 to 97? What? 5 years in there. And then you ask on page 46, line 6, I guess what, and again, I'm talking to you here, it seems like you're all skirting the outsides here, okay? I can't get a straight answer from you, Mark, okay? Answer, okay. Question, that's why I end up having 100 more questions. Answer, I'm not trying to do that, I'm trying. Question, yeah, and I'm just trying to nail the hammer on the head here with the nail, okay, just trying to get right to the point here. Question, you're telling me in a roundabout way that you'd get these photographs of Julie sucking a man's penis at work. Okay? Answer, moves head up and down. Question, you would bring that photograph home and leave it around for her to find, or you would show it to her. Now, before you said you would leave it around for her to find, so you're leaving some of the photos around the house. Answer, no response. Question, I mean, you just told me earlier. Answer, yeah. Question, now you're saying to me you didn't. Answer, I'm sorry. It's all so fuzzy. It's over 5 years of time. Question, I know, I understand. I mean, I just kind of want to get through this, Mark, and I'll be honest with you.
I object to reading this because it's all Detective Ratzburg. There aren't even any answers. The rest of this page, there's nothing except Detective Ratzburg making a declarative statement.
Is there a statement of the accused, Mr.?
At some point there is, but you see, Your Honor, the point of asking this, there is an answer on page 48. After a series of questions with short answers of okay, and I understand, then there's the end. But I'll skip over those questions. We'll get right to the point. Page 48, line 7. Answer, I don't know where the pictures came from. It would be left on the truck. They'd be left in the mailbox. I'm sure at times, there were times when I did something with the pictures. I may have written on them. We're talking about a 5-year period of time. I can't specifically remember. Question, Answer, there were times I threw them away. There was a time I put some in the shed, sticking them back in the shed. I seem to recall something like that, specifically doing it. I can't remember. There's times I may have embellished the pictures, writing on there, something like that, or question. So for the most part, you left the photos around the house for her to find, or for you to find when you, in fact, got them at work. But you said you found them in the work shed. Answer, exactly. I'd get a stack of them and I would accumulate them because, it was very upsetting to her. Whenever it came to the forefront, our relationship suffered for it. Question, So answer, I mean it did. Question, at one point you were telling her that, well, this is you and Perry doing it, when in fact you didn't know that for sure, that it was just, answer, it was just a picture that I got and it could have been anybody. Question, yeah, all the pictures that you had there that you left around the house, how many did you leave around the house? I mean, there were quite a few pictures that you left. Answer, there were. I can't even begin to quantify over a period of time. Question, more than 10, less than 10? I think it's more than 10. Answer, oh, it's definitely more than 10. It was definitely more than 10. Question, now answer, when I do that, it would be, I'd get this stuff and we were trying to hang on to it from an evidence standpoint. Question, Answer, I mean, question, well, she turned the majority of them over to Officer Cosman. Answer, right. And then page 50, line 4, question. And at that point, reading through these reports, it was that you guys suspected Perry did it, but in fact, you were doing it. And that was pretty much along the lines of suspicion. I find it hard to believe as I'm sitting here today.
Objected, just declarative statements by Detective Ratzburg that are not for the truth and aren't adopted.
Go ahead to the point that suggests some adoption of any statement.
Well, let me finish reading the question. There's an answer right after it. It says, or I'd find them around the house because I did. And then, question, okay, answer, I mean, I did find them around the house, but it was a question of showing them to her. Question, answer, I mean, question, and you ended up showing the majority of them to her? Answer, exactly. Question, although they, go ahead please, answer, how many times do you have to see pictures like that and get reminded of it before you kind of go, man, it's not worth it, it gets old, you put it away, and I'd put them away, and then something would happen, and I'd get pissed off, and I'd pull some out, and I'd say, I found those in the shed. Question, when in fact you had them. Answer, I had them. I mean, they'd accumulate them for weeks. Line 51, question, we could have done a lot more work with it at the time, but you didn't tell us about that. Am I right, or did I miss something? Answer, no, they were, the ones that were mailed to the office were early on in the first year or two. Then page 53, line 2, question, so you misled her, which in turn misled the police? Answer, the police, yes. I mean, it was not a malicious standpoint, it was, question, you were pissed off at her? Answer, I was pissed off at her. Question, you were pissed off about that relationship with Perry? Fair statement? Answer, right, because our relationship was never really quite the same. Well, she was never quite the same. Your Honor, there are some other issues I want to go into with this witness, but we need to take some issues up outside the presence of the jury before I do that. And I see we're getting close to lunch hour.
All right, let's break at this point, and let me ask that you return at 1:15. Please do not talk about the case during the break.
Please all rise.
Well, Your Honor, I know that I had made an offer of proof the other day about the photographs that were found on Mark Jensen's work computer. And over the weekend I had Marty Cook print up copies of those photographs. I believe that in view of the cross-examination that has occurred with respect to this witness concerning how he compelled Mr. Jensen to make a false admission about leaving these photos around, for Julie to find, about writing on them, I believe that I should be permitted to revisit that issue, and I believe I should be able to bring in evidence of that. Furthermore, Your Honor, there was this statement that Julie Jensen had written out where Mark's computer doesn't have a photo generating capacity. I believe that I can prove quite the contrary. I believe that I can prove that Mark Jensen's work computer is capable of printing photographs, not only capable of printing them, but on a photo, on an inkjet printer or on a laser printer. The photos that he would be producing would be virtually identical to the ones that have been described as being the ones that were being left around the house in the years preceding Julie Jensen's death. Now, in view, you had indicated that you were excluding the evidence because it was cumulative. I don't believe it can be viewed as cumulative anymore, considering the frontal assault that was mounted by defense counsel on this issue.
there's two things that are at work here. One is that you're right. I think the defense is continuing to deny that the defendant was the source of the photographs, and I agree with you that the examination of Lieutenant Ratzburg has suggested that the defendant was bullied into making an admission that may not have been rooted in fact. On the other hand, what you described to me the other day was photographs of 2,800 penises. And what I have heard throughout this trial has been references to sexual acts, and, you know, they're not the same. Or they may not be the same.
Well, we've got them all printed out, Judge. You'll be able to see them.
Do I have to?
Well, they're actually...
I may have to. Indeed, I may. That's part of the downside of being a judge. But let me ask you this. I'll ask for a description before we get that far. You refer to them as 2,800 photographs of penises. Are they just penises, or are they penises in depicting a sexual act, opposed to just being erect?
I have not taken the opportunity to examine each one of them. Now, Ms. Gabrielle has, because she was instructed to. And by the way, Your Honor, another thing about this being a surprise, we filed a motion to admit this on May 8th of 2007. So counsel received this, and it's entitled The State's Offer of Proof. The state's...
Abandoned. That's the point.
Let's finish up.
The state offers the following information. And a review of the hard drive of Mark Jensen's work computer reveals the presence of approximately 5,350 sexually explicit images. 180 of these images are of a male ejaculating on a woman. 351 images are of oral intercourse. These images of oral intercourse and ejaculation are consistent with the images found by Julie Jensen and claimed to be found by Mark Jensen during 1991 to 1998. 91 images are of a penis next to a ruler, tape measure, or other mechanism for measuring. These images are consistent in nature with the photo found in the Jensen home on which someone wrote, she says here, I am bigger than he is.
Okay, go ahead.
I actually think the testimony from Officer Cosman was, is his as big as mine? Now, I have not looked at all of those photos. I asked Mr. Cook this morning to describe the manner in which they're organized. And there were folders containing a series of penis pictures, and the one was labeled big, one was labeled bigger, and one was labeled favorites. Then there are photos of women about to perform fellatio upon some guy's erect penis. And those are, I don't know if those are organized in any particular fashion, but those are precisely consistent with the photos that this detective just described seeing, having been alleged to have been found around the Jensen residence. And, you know, when the defendant says in his statement to Detective Ratzburg, I didn't have them. Well, it's true that, you know, the computer we're talking about was a computer that we seized in 2002, and we know that his first computer at work was destroyed. The hard drive was fried on it. And the circumstances surrounding that even lends credence to the state's offer of proof in this case, because Dave Nearing, if you'll recall, testified that Mark was complaining about wanting his home computer back, and Dave Nearing said on a Friday afternoon, well, it's just a good thing they didn't come and take your work computer. I wonder why they didn't do that. And then the following Monday, Mark Jensen reports that the hard drive on his work computer is fried. And what a coincidence that would be, except that...
As we went through this...
Let him finish, please. Let him finish.
And what a coincidence that would be, except for one thing. Cops and prosecutors don't believe in coincidences when they're conducting a homicide investigation. And that clearly demonstrates consciousness of guilt on the part of the defendant, recognition that there is some stuff on his work computer and he doesn't want the cops to see it. Now, there's going to be testimony from Marty Cook, as there was already from Rhonda Mitchell, that the defendant intentionally deleted, or the user of the Jensen home computer intentionally deleted the internet history. And what the defendant did with his work computer is intentionally deleted everything. He just fried the computer. But this defendant has a lingering, ongoing preoccupation with penises and oral sex particularly fellatio. And it is demonstrated with his interest with the stuff he's got on his work computer as of 2002. And Your Honor, the home computer history, the internet history on the home computer. July 16th, 1998, Amateur Alley Sex City Net 24. It's over and over and over again it comes up. And then there's another site.
Alley, what is it? Amateur Alley what?
Amateur Alley SexyCity.net.
And what is the date?
July 16th, 1998. There's numerous references to it. Then, July 16th, 1998, Kantolasican/ISI/penis-con2HTML. Then below that, adultcheck.com. Then below that, mail domain com/bigdicks/index. Then below that, www.maildomain.com. Then below that, www.maildomain.com/bigdicks/inside-HTM. It just goes on and on and on and on. And to suggest that we can't go into that, Your Honor, that's right on point with respect to this other X evidence, and that other X evidence in and of itself demonstrates this defendant's hatred for his wife, his torturing his wife because she had that one weekend affair in 1990 and 1991, and he could never let it go. No wonder Julie Jensen was unhappy. She was married to a man who hated her and who tortured her. And if we can't get in the evidence of the motive, I know we don't have to prove motive in this case, Your Honor, but how bizarre is it for a man to do what this man did? I believe that it's absolutely critical evidence in this case. It clearly should come in. And the linkages with what's on his home computer, the linkages with what's on his work computer, and then for him to say with a straight face when he's talking to Detective Ratzburg, I don't have those. I didn't have that stuff. He had that stuff. He had it on his home computer. He had it on his work computer.
Thank you. Mr. Albee?
Virtually none of that was legal argument. There's, and I, to re-argue the facts, that's for the jury. Judge,
This notion that there's some, again, I think it is all prejudicial, should all be kept out. The court's gone far further than I would think is appropriate. But at bottom, this idea of trying to take stuff that's off the computer in 2002, maybe 7 years after these images are found on Mr. Jensen's car or outside the house. Like, we're talking like 7 years. And they don't have any of those pictures. We can't say that they're identical, but I mean, it's this idea that there's some sort of MO. And they've talked about that they're all exclusively about oral sex. That's been their whole position. That's what it's all about. And then in their offer of proof that's filed September 13th, 2007, it says that there were 5,350 sexually explicit images. 351 of those, like 4% is, I think, are of oral intercourse. I mean, that's far, I imagine that's far, far fewer than you'd get if you took any random set of 5,000 pornographic pictures. You'd expect there to be half of the oral intercourse. So there isn't this kind of MO that they're talking about. On Friday, all you could talk about is how there's 2,800 of measured penises. Here it says 91. 91, not 2,800. So I really don't even know what the truth is about these things, but we raised these issues and then they were abandoned before trial.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry. Did you finish?
No, I'm reading a note from Mr. Jensen. There's a talk, Mr. Ratzburg said that Mr. Jamboy's asked the same question 4 times, hoping Mr. Ratzburg would change his answer. He did not, saying that he saw less than 10 of these things. He says they're both photographs and photocopies. There's no indication in any contemporaneous report that these were computer-generated copies. That doesn't exist. That's something that they're trying to add to this in 2008, maybe 13 years after these images were left. And there's no matching. I mean, there's not one photograph they can say is on that computer in 2002 that they say, well, this is what was on, this is left around the house in 95.
Well, let me ask this. You recited some sites that were visited that I asked about dates, and I don't know enough about computers. If I typed in, or someone typed in, the exact same site, I mean, would that appear with the same picture as was then the case, or is would then have come up? Can you ask your expert and ask? I mean, if I type in that exact business, will it say this? Those exact characters? Will the same pictures come up, or maybe would the same pictures come up, or?
Well, Judge, I don't think there. I doubt that. I mean, it appears in July of '98 that there are pornographic sites visited. But there's no connection between those and photographs that are left, because there's no evidence that those were computer generated.
Here, wait a minute. Here I have, I guess this one looks like a photograph. But supposing, for example, the same picture as States 197 shows up at some site. Well, then it'd be pretty probative evidence that it was the defendant who put this into play.
That's what we're missing in this case.
I don't know. That's why I want to see what's depicted on the computer from 1998. And that's why I'm interested in the answer. If we put in the very characters that are described there as having been visited, is there a possibility, at least, if not a probability, that the same depiction will be present now?
Well, Your Honor, all I can say is this. Let's take a look at this one at July 16th, 1998. http:// mail domain /bigdicks/index. I think we kind of know what's going to show up on something like that.
I have little doubt as to what's going to come up. It's a question of, you see, no. It depends on the similarity to what was described, because I didn't hear until Friday anything about a penis fixation. I heard about sex acts. Well, I shouldn't say that. That isn't true. I'm sorry I said that, because of course I know very well that I heard plenty about penis fixation. But
well, Judge, and the other thing is
there has to be some linkage other than the fact that it happens to be mere pornography. Now, just a minute. But Mr. Albee, you have to tell me, to this moment, the defense in this case, to my impression, is denying that the defendant put these photographs into play. And so the state has to prove this, but I'm a little troubled by proving it with material taken off a computer from 2002.
And none of those things in 2002, Judge. They're not claiming. Well, we looked at this, and here's the picture that looks just like Julie Jensen, which is what they're saying. I mean, Julie Jensen thought these were of her.
Well, so I don't know that she thought they were of her, or whether she was relaying what she had been told about what they depicted. But I don't know. That's for the jury to decide. I would tell you, I'm not going to bar the evidence on that, because that's for the jury to decide.
There's no similarity to what is left in these later pictures, other than there's pornography, which how many millions of people in this country are looking at pornography? I mean,
well, what about that, Mr. Jamboys? I mean, certainly the defendant would not be unique in having some pornography on his computer. I mean, that is fairly commonplace in the United States, unfortunately.
Your Honor, let's get back to what the purpose is of introducing this evidence. The defendant is denying that he left these photos around. One of these photos had written on it, "Is mine as big as his?" There is a complete preoccupation with penis size about this defendant. It goes on and on with his. You couple that with his interrogation of Kelly Labonte in 1998 or 2000 or 2001, whenever you want to do that. Then you proceed to what is on this home computer, and I mean, I've only given you some of the stuff that's on here. I mean, there's gaypenis.com. And there's nothing wrong with people looking at that kind of, I'm not saying it's wrong to look at it, but what it demonstrates is weird preoccupation with this. Now, it wouldn't be weird for a gay person, a gay guy to be interested in this, but it's kind of weird for a heterosexual guy to be, some guy who's married and got children to be interested in this. And you look at the stuff that's, lotsofsmut.com. I understand the mere fact that he's interested in pornography in and of itself would not necessarily mean he's the source of these photos. I can see that much. But the vast majority of these photos, according to the ones that Detective Ratzburg has seen, were of a woman's face in the immediate vicinity of a penis. And there's numerous photos like that on his work computer. We had other evidence that the court has excluded, and I don't know if you're going to revisit that issue, where he was being thanked for his subscription to www.
That was also after the incident.
It is, but it shows this defendant's preoccupation, Your Honor.
Well, as I said before, I think it's cumulative. I think I put abundant evidence in the record that the defendant has a fetish or an obsession with penises and their length and size and so on and so forth. I'm troubled by your seeking to put in evidence from 2002, what was on a computer in 2002.
Which, Your Honor, let's remember this. He destroyed his work computer.
Well, I know. I know that is what you're claiming, and the jury can certainly consider that.
And here's the other link, Your Honor. The stuff I was citing to you was stuff that was on his home computer. It clearly shows that this is not a new interest of his. When you could put this in context of the conversation that was occurring between him and Kelly Labonte, where she was forced to describe each and every one of the penises that she's been in contact with over the preceding 10 years or so, and you add to that this defendant's lingering resentment to it, and that's why we're trying to get these photos into evidence. It shows his resentment and his hatred of his wife because she had sexual relations with another man, and he was torturing her with this over the years. And that's a central part of this case, and they're not conceding that point.
I know. And
so how can it be cumulative? They're not conceding the point. They clearly think that I've not convinced the jury of this. So, and you're saying, okay, well, I understand, Mr. Jamboys, you have this evidence. I admit it's very powerful evidence, but you know what?
I'm not sure it has the power that you do.
Oh, Judge, I'll bring the photos here after lunch. You can look at them. By the way, the description that was contained in our...
Just a minute.
The statement that was contained in our offer of proof was based upon Ms. Gabrielle's review of these photos. Mr. Cook has a clearer, I think he is in a better position to actually describe the manner in which they're organized on the computer. And I'm pressing this issue because, Your Honor, I consider it's an important part of the case. Not to show that, this is not a sex-related crime. The crime of murdering his wife was not done for part of a sexual fantasy or anything like that. I'm not showing it for that purpose. I'm showing it for the jury to see the motive this person has and linking him up.
I repeat my question to you. Has anybody checked these sites? Well, I'm actually getting ahead. Why don't you ask your expert, if you typed in those same characters on the address or whatever you call it up there on the top of the computer, would you likely get the same picture?
Well, I think what he would say is this. If they're still active and we punch in those sites, we're going to get something consistent with that subject matter. Now, are they the same? Possibly. Very likely they are the same because they don't think they come down very often. They're not taken off the site very often.
So why don't you offer those?
Oh, well,
rather than something from 2002, 4 years after the woman died.
I will see what I can do. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We'll continue the discussion. I haven't made a final decision, other than the fact that I ruled previously, and which, as I indicated, was a very close call. But now, if you brought in something from, or even, well, I won't say anymore. Something from 1998 would strike me as extremely probative.
Well, we'll see what we can do in that regard, but I'll say this, Your Honor, in response to this notion that you had the other day of it being a close call, then why wasn't the cross-examination of this detective sufficient to push it over the edge?
I don't know. I haven't thought it through. I'm looking for an answer from the defense as to why I should look at it favorably to the accused when he continues to dispute the point that you are making.
You still have cumulative evidence, even, that's not,
Well, it
that's not
can't
the
be
definition of cumulative
As
evidence.
Mr. Jamboys aptly states, it can't be so cumulative that you aren't proceeding in the face of it and hoping to sway the jury to believe it isn't so. That is kind of inconsistent with being cumulative.
No, it's not. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I call 53 witnesses to talk about the opinion and reputation of Aaron Dillard. At witness number 21, Mr. Jamboys is still not going to concede all issues that he lied in this case, but the court is going to say, this is cumulative, Mr. Albee. You can't keep presenting it. You don't have to concede an issue for it to not be cumulative.
Well, that's a good point.
unfairly.
You're right.
But except for one thing, Your Honor. The state has not disputed that Aaron Dillard is a criminal and a con man and a liar and a thief.
All right.
I guess that's that point too.
See you at, since we have more to discuss, we'll reassemble at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
1 o'clock.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.